Hello and welcome to North East Nostalgic. Today we're going on a little tour of the historic gems in Old Sunderland, situated in the east end of the city. Old Sunderland was in its heyday one of the busiest, most bustling places in town, home to the Port of Sunderland as well as the Sunderland quayside and docks. Today this area is mostly residential with a few historic buildings, hinting to this area's maritime and industrial past. We're currently in Sunnyside, a former Victorian business centre, with insurance and foreign consulates being based here. We're walking towards Villiers Street and the bridge in front of us. There's a whole lot of history in this area, including an underground crypt, but that's a story for another day. Heading up the footbridge to Old Sunderland, you can see Holy Trinity Church just peeking up from the residential skyline. Looking to your left, you can see up to the River Wear and the bustling traffic below. Our first stop is the Georgian Holy Trinity Church, which is over 300 years old. This magnificent building has stood the test of time from the birth of the modern Sunderland we know today. This church holds tales of grave robbers, cholera outbreaks, and even a note from a Victorian orphan boy hidden in one of the pews. Today it has been brought back to life as 1719, an arts and events space for the community, bringing back the traditions of togetherness for a new generation. If you're curious to what this building looks like inside, I recently uploaded a tour of when I was very lucky to have been shown around, even up to the dizzying heights of the clock tower. Hidden around this corner from Holy Trinity Church are more hints to Old Sunderland's past. This path is the original way people would have walked, and as we head down here it does feel like we've gone back in time to the Victorian era. To the left is the site of the Old Sunderland parish workhouse, opening in 1740 to help the poorest people of the town. In 1797 there were 176 people in the workhouse, with 36 of them being children under 12. An extension to the workhouse through reports suggests that there could have been over 600 residents crammed into this space. A pin factory, sailor's loft and the township's hospital was connected to the workhouse, with residents likely to be working in those in exchange for a roof over their heads in desperation. Health and safety wasn't a thing then, with dangers being present throughout all the jobs, and children weren't let off the hook either, being employed to make pins and other small items. Next we come to the Donaldson School, established in 1798 to educate 36 poor girls from the Sunderland parish. Progressive at the time, the Georgian school was to provide the girls with a basic education, suitable clothing and the practical skills for the home and community. This early educational provision was an investment in the welfare of working class girls, with wealthy benefactor Elizabeth Donaldson leaving money in her will for the establishment of the school. Students from the age of 7 to 16 were taught needlework, spinning, sewing, knitting, in addition to reading and writing. Pupils were provided with clothes and shoes, with additional pieces being gifted at Christmas and Midsummer. The Donaldson School was the first of its kind in Sunderland, part of a wider movement of charity schools to educate deprived girls. A little further down Church Walk is yet another historic gem, Sunderland's very own Trafalgar Square. In 1774, an Act of Parliament required seamen to pay £6 per month from their wages to support disabled seamen and their families. This became known as the Muster Roll Fund. The Muster Roll Fund was used to construct the almshouses here, completed 4 years before London's Trafalgar Square. Families of lost seamen as well as elderly seafarers were able to live here, with the houses being named in honour of the 76 sons of Sunderland present at the Battle of Trafalgar. plaque in the square lists the names and ages of the 76 men who left Sunderland to be part of the Battle of Trafalgar, along with the ships that they served on. The Trafalgar almshouses continue to house disabled seamen and their families to this day. We continue down Church Walk, reaching the old Town Moor. The Old Sunderland Town Moor spanned over 80 acres, being a recreational and meeting place for the townsfolk. It wouldn't be unusual to see horse racing, grazing cattle, football matches or fishing nets being laid out to dry here, alongside popular sport and activities of the time. Bull, badger and bear baiting. There definitely wasn't a quiet moment on this stretch of land. There was also a railway station which sat at the terminus for Durham to Sunderland line, connecting to the North Eastern Railway. The station opened in 1836 and was only open for 22 years. This brick wall marks the Grey School, a Victorian infant school set up in 1834, named after Reverend Robert Gray, who was the rector of the Sunderland parish at the time. It's strange to think that this also was the site of one of the biggest air raid shelters in the city. Residents couldn't build individual shelters due to the houses being too close together, so 3 large earth-covered shelters were constructed on the Town Moor. A short walk away is another bygone historic gem, the Sunderland Orphan Asylum. This forbidden building was built in 1861 and was once the home to male orphans of seafarers. The building was designed by architects Charles and Lucas of London in the Italianate style, with round arched windows, low roofs and a square tower resembling an Italian villa. The boys were taught seamanship and wore a naval-style sailor suit as a uniform, many going off to pursue careers overseas. One of the boys was the head choir boy at Holy Trinity Church, with a note being discovered from him during the renovations. Watch my Holy Trinity video to see what he wrote. We crossed the road, circling back near Holy Trinity Church. The Grey Memorial Gardens were once the parish churchyard, containing over 100,000 burials, including the gravestone of hero Jack Crawford. Following the road down, we come to another of our historic buildings in Old Sunderland, 10 to 11 Church Street. These 2 houses are the last surviving Georgian houses which would have been home to the town's merchants and coal fitters, escaping the overcrowded industrial areas through residence nearer the Town Moor. Number 10 Church Street was built by local merchant John Freeman in 1710 and is now a Hells Angels chapter house. Further down on Church Street is this social club which has a rather fitting mural on its wall. Jack Crawford is pictured nailing the colours to the mast of HMS Venerable, becoming a hero for not allowing his ship to seem like it was surrendering during the Battle of Trafalgar. We then turn right and head up near the quayside to a really interesting set of buildings that are all that remains of the maze of alleyways and built-up houses that would have lined the River Wear. Overlooking the port and the fish quay, these buildings would have sat opposite J.L. Thompson's shipyard, with the river being a hive of industry. This is Bull Lane, an 18th century alleyway leading to Low Street and the quayside. On either side of the alleyway are 2 buildings with origins going back to 1690. One theory to the name is that bulls on their way to the nearby abattoir would have passed through this alleyway, but I don't quite think the bulls would have managed with these steep stairs. Next door is the Clarendon, which is one of the oldest pubs in Sunderland, with the longest unbroken drinking licence going back to 1753. Heading further up the bank, we pass the Boarhead's pub, which is the 2nd oldest pub in Sunderland, and we see this incredible set of artwork by Frank Styles. Designed for the 2008 Tall Ships race, the 10 murals depict the history of shipbuilding along the River Wear. Amongst those shown are the Torrens, which was built in 1875 at James Lane's Deptford Yard, designed to take emigrants from England to Australia, returning home with wool and other produce. The Empire Liberty was built in 1941 at J.L. Thompson's to be used as Ministry of War transport during the Second World War. We also have the Nordic Chieftain, Sunderland Venture, Stena Sewell, as well as the ITM Challenger, which was the last ship to be built at North Sands Yard in 1987. Turning back around, we start walking away from the East End and go towards the city centre. The Boar's Head pub in front of us dates back to 1724, being a popular watering hole for sailors and workers at the nearby port. You can definitely imagine jolly sailors piling out of this pub onto the street, before returning to their vessels on the riverside, heading on international adventures. Peek down near the river to see hints of forgotten history, with cobbled stones guiding the way to the fish quay and the old ferry landing that would take hundreds of workers across the River Wear to the shipyards. On this last part of our journey, we can see history on both sides of the road. The Georgian Exchange building to the right served as a town hall, courthouse and post office during times of boom in Sunderland. The Eagle building stands next door, being the site of the old Three Crowns pub in the 17th century. This area was incredibly busy at the time, with Bordlewell Lane being home to the main water supply in Sunderland. A bodle was a Scottish term for half a farthing, which would buy 2 gallons of water. I hope you enjoyed this tour of East End and Old Sunderland. Please like and subscribe if you'd like to see more, and see you soon.